Welcome to Ask the Expert North Texas here on News Radio 1080 KRLD. I'm David Rankin.
And I'm Kristen Diaz. And today on Ask the Expert, we are introducing Dr. Sarah Maxwell to the KRLD Afternoon News. She's an associate professor at the University of Texas at Dallas School of Economics. And so the conversation today has been, Sarah, that we have been looking at just all different types of stories that have been coming out about ticks. And that doesn't seem to be something that we tend to perk our ears up to here in North Texas. But the fact that so many people are traveling during the summertime is definitely something to note. So why is it that a lot of experts are saying this could be one of the worst summers worst years for tick season?
This could be one of the worst years. And truthfully, it's not just in the Northeast anymore. I mean, climate change, of course. But ticks are coming down, they're migrating. And I think people are actually starting to realize that the ticks are moving out of the Northeast in areas where we would normally expect to see them. So I'm glad you mentioned traveling, because even though, if you go to your doctor, a medical professional will often say, there's no Lyme disease in Texas. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And to some degree, if you look at Texas as a whole, that's true. But then if you look at various counties within Texas, there is Lyme disease, and there's also quite a few other tick-borne diseases such as Rocky Mountain spotted fever or ehrlichiosis. And Rocky Mountain spotted fever can be very serious or deadly. And so when you mention traveling, families send their kids to camp in Arkansas and Oklahoma, and these are places too where you really need to be aware of ticks if your child comes home sick from camp or anything like that.
There's also a risk not only to human beings, but animals can also be affected by ticks and tick bites too.
Yes. So in fact, one of the things that I study is I look at canines, and sometimes we find, with humans, we really don't know the true extent of tick-borne diseases. And so my research kind of triangulates data from a variety of sources, one of those being animals, and looking at where those diseases are. Because of course, if your dog has Lyme or ehrlichiosis or anaplasmosis, there's a good chance you might too, because these dogs probably sleep on your bed or you have them in your house. So yes, animals can definitely be affected as well. And I do find that in North Texas, particularly, and Texas in general, that veterinarians do a really good job of testing.
I love that segue, because I have a rescue dog that I adopted when I was living in South Texas. I'm born and raised here in the state, and I had never encountered ticks my entire life until we rescued him, and he was full of them. And it made me question, where are they coming from? And you bring the dog into the house to take him to the outdoor patio, and I'm like, did one fall off? Do I need to burn the whole house down? What is the protocol with ticks? Because I was completely oblivious to what to do.
Yeah, so actually ticks in South Texas are really bad. So are fleas, by the way. I don't study fleas, but I am aware of some of the diseases that come from there. So what do you do if your dog has a tick? If your child, your dog, or yourself, if you find a tick anywhere, don't burn it. Actually take very fine tip tweezers and pull it straight out. And then I recommend saving the tick for testing. You can kind of put it in a little paper towel and a plastic bag, put the date and the location on it, put it in the refrigerator, and then find the tick testing site of your choice. I use a company called Technology because they do a very wide spectrum of testing for all sorts of different diseases. But there are plenty of free places to go to. I think the state of Texas offers that as well. But don't throw your tick away. Keep it and make sure, because if you or your pet ever get sick, you can, you have the results there, and you can say, oh gosh, my dog had ehrlichiosis. I better get tested for that. I have symptoms.
Definitely a closed container, because when you said a paper towel, I'm like, oh, that thing is going to crawl away. Yeah, seal it. Yeah, for sure.
The other course, the question is how do you know if you or your child or your pets have ticks? What do you look for?
So that's a great question, because ticks can be the size of a poppy seed or smaller, these little nymphal ticks. And some of those are hard to find on a dog that's maybe, black or has brown hair, and the tick kind of gets in there and you don't see it. So, brushing your dog out, looking, especially if you're in tall grass, dog or child or yourself, if you are in areas where there's any type of grass, if you play golf, if you've sent your child to camp, any of those, you want to look for the ticks and look carefully. They hide. They like to hide behind your knees, in your belly button, in your hair, in places you might least expect. But it's really important, and people don't realize this, even in Texas, that you should be wearing tick protection if you're going out pretty much,
To the outdoors.
to the outdoors.
Stay in a bubble.
Stay in a bubble. If you play golf, I tell all of my friends to laugh, but I say to everybody, if you play golf, just leave the ball. It's not worth it. Don't go looking in the tall grass. You can buy another ball, but the cost of your healthcare is going to be a lot higher.
Take the penalty stroke.
Yep. Take the penalty stroke.
What are some of the symptoms if you maybe you didn't see the tick, but you got bitten somehow? What are some of the symptoms you could get if you're sick?
So they're kind of the classic symptoms. The first that everybody says is the bullseye rash, but with Lyme disease in particular, a lot of people don't necessarily have that rash. They're kind of estimates between 30 to 80% may have the rash. I don't know what the exact answer is. And then some develop other rashes that are not bullseye in particular, but may look different. And so you may not recognize it as a tick-borne, as a tick rash initially. That's one. Two, really just kind of fatigue and flu-like symptoms. I've heard a lot of doctors and people in the field will say their symptoms are very non-specific. So it could be anything from joint pain to really bad headaches, low-grade fevers, just that general overall malaise, kind of feeling sick. And then some of those studies that I've done, I've asked patients with Lyme disease and other tick-borne diseases about their symptoms. And we have found that the vast majority, the first things that they will report are anxiety and depression. And that's a surprise, I think, to a lot of people, because that's not coming up in most of the public health literature. And so they might go into the doctor and say, gosh, I'm just feeling down and sick. And they say, well, you might have a virus or something, but then it never ends. So it's really important to pay attention to this overall feeling of not feeling well, even swollen glands that just doesn't go away. See your doctor quickly, especially if you've been in the grass or outside.
In order to prevent any kind of encounters with ticks, I understand that using just simple repellent with DEET in it can also help to keep them away from you.
Definitely. Any type of repellent that is suggested by the experts, I am all for. I wear, and truthfully, anytime you wear DEET, or I actually like, it's called picaridin, I think I'm saying it correctly, and promethean, you put on your clothes if you're going camping or such. Any type of spray will also repel mosquitoes, so you're doing yourself a favor by protecting yourself from any
one.
Just bathe in it is if you're going to be out in the woods, seriously. But yes, wearing any type of repellent is good. And then there's some that are recommended over others, I know.
That is Dr. Sarah Maxwell with UTD. Thank you so much for the time and for educating us all about ticks.
Thank you for having me. Stay safe.